The sun was beginning to set as I drove home from a late evening at work. I had always preferred the scenic route, even if it added some extra time to my commute. The familiar hum of my car engine and the quiet solitude of the road were my only companions on this drive. As I rounded a bend in the road, my headlights caught a strange sight: a baby stroller, abandoned on the side of the road. My first thought was that it must have been lost or forgotten by a parent, concerned for the safety of any child who might have been left behind. I decided to pull over and investigate. I parked my car and approached the stroller. Moonlight filtered through the trees, casting an eerie glow over the scene. The stroller seemed out of place, alone on the side of the road with no one else in sight. I cautiously approached, ready to offer assistance to any child in need. Just as I reached the stroller, a rustling in the nearby bushes caught my attention. My breath caught as a figure emerged from the shadows of the trees, gripping a gleaming blade. Fear surged through me, paralyzing my every muscle. The man's eyes bore into mine, and he spoke in a low, threatening voice. "If you value your life, hand over everything valuable you have." My mind raced as I realized the danger I was in. My instincts kicked in, and I stammered, "Take it all." Just as the man was reaching for my belongings, another car approached from the distance. Headlights pierced through the darkness, revealing the presence of a second person. They pulled up alongside us, and two men stepped out of the vehicle. The sudden turn of events left me bewildered, but it quickly became apparent that they were all working together. They demanded my wallet and anything else of value. I complied, trembling with fear, as one of them reached into my car and took the car keys from the ignition. In mere moments, they had stripped me of my possessions, leaving me vulnerable and shaken. With their ill-gotten gains in hand, the men retreated to their car and sped away into the night, leaving me standing there, trembling and terrified. Once they were out of sight, I scrambled back to my car and fumbled for my phone. I dialed 911. I relayed the harrowing experience to the dispatcher. Within minutes, a patrol car arrived on the scene, and the police launched an investigation into the incident. A week later, I found myself sitting down with a local journalist, recounting the chilling story of how these criminals had used a baby stroller as a trap to prey on unsuspecting drivers. It was a sobering reminder that danger could lurk in the most unexpected places, even on a quiet, moonlit road. The authorities worked diligently to apprehend the culprits, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief that they were off the streets. But the memory of that night would forever haunt me. A stark reminder that sometimes the darkness that descends upon us is all too real, and the line between safety and danger can be dangerously thin. A year ago, in the place where I grew up, a strange and chilling encounter unfolded on a night I'd never forget. It was well past midnight when I decided to return home after a night of partying at a club. Perhaps it was the few beers I'd consumed, or maybe just a desire to avoid the prying eyes of the law, but I opted to take a quiet, winding country road that would bypass the main route and lead me directly to my house. It would take a bit longer, but it seemed far less likely that I'd encounter any patrolling cops along the way. The clock read around 4 a.m. as I navigated the desolate road, its eerie silence broken only by the soft hum of my car's engine. With each twist and turn, I felt more isolated from the world, a feeling that I both relished and feared. Little did I know that the true terror was yet to come. As I approached a sharp left turn in the road, I noticed a figure standing on the side. Her presence was surreal, a stark contrast to the stillness of the night. The woman had long, black, curly hair that framed her pale face. She stood there motionless, her gaze fixed directly in the direction from which I was approaching. My heart skipped a beat as my headlights illuminated her bizarre appearance. The woman wore nothing but a thin, white skirt. There was no top, no bra, just a bare chest and bare feet. But what sent shivers down my spine was her expression. Her lips were stretched into a maniacal, terrifying grin. It revealed every tooth, making her appear more like a demented caricature than a human being. As I slowly passed her, our eyes locked, and time seemed to stand still. In that horrifying moment, I noticed something even more disturbing. She clutched a small knife in her hand, resembling a Stanley utility knife, and her hands and wrists were smeared with blood. Panic coursed through my veins, and I nearly lost control of the car as adrenaline surged. Without hesitation, I hit the gas pedal and accelerated away from the nightmarish encounter. Glancing in the rearview mirror, I saw her, still grinning that grin, stepping onto the road and following the path my car had taken. For agonizing seconds, I sped away, my heart pounding like a drum. My mind raced with disbelief and terror. "Oh my God, what the hell is this?" I muttered to myself, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Then, as I rounded the next bend, I lost sight of her, and the fear that had gripped me began to ebb. 10 minutes later, I arrived home, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. I was shaken to the core, my mind replaying that sinister encounter over and over again. Fear clung to me like a shadow, refusing to let go. But then, as the adrenaline slowly subsided, another emotion began to surface: concern. What if something terrible had happened to that woman? What if she needed help? Guilt gnawed at me for not stopping and rendering aid. Desperate to do the right thing, I picked up my phone and dialed the local police station. I described the bizarre encounter: an almost naked woman, possibly injured, potentially armed, and in dire need of assistance. They asked for my name, and in a moment of sheer panic, I hung up, unable to disclose my identity. In the days and weeks that followed, I couldn't shake the image of that woman from my mind. I had nightmares about her, haunted by the unsettling grin and the blood on her hands. I often wondered who she was and what had led her to such a disturbing state. I found myself grappling with the agonizing choice I had made to flee in fear instead of offering help. In time, I came to a grim realization. The woman I encountered that fateful night was likely someone suffering from a severe mental illness, or in the throes of a psychotic episode, self-harming in a state of profound distress. Part of me wished I had stopped and tried to help her, but the honest truth was that fear had consumed me entirely in that harrowing moment, leaving me with no other instinct but to escape. That night remains etched in my memory as a chilling reminder of the fragility of the human mind and the darkness that can manifest in the most unexpected of places. It serves as a haunting testament to the fine line that separates the ordinary from the truly inexplicable, a reminder that sometimes the most terrifying encounters are the ones that offer no answers, only endless questions. As I drove home from work, one unusually late evening, I found myself navigating through the desolate labyrinth of an industrial zone that always seemed to possess an eerie, foreboding quality. It was the sort of place where the dimly flickering streetlights cast long, haunting shadows that played tricks on your imagination. This night, however, the shadows would be the least of my worries. I was tired, my eyelids heavy with the day's exhaustion, and I yearned for nothing more than the comfort of my own bed. But my journey home took me through this unsettling stretch of road, where silence reigned supreme, and the occasional clang of machinery echoed through the vast, empty warehouses. As I approached a particularly quiet junction, my heart skipped a beat. A car was parked haphazardly across the road, blocking my path. Two men stood beside it. Panic welled up within me as I realized that something was terribly amiss. My instincts screamed at me to drive away, to retreat from whatever sinister tableau was unfolding before me. The thought crossed my mind that these two men might have malicious intentions, that they were waiting for an unsuspecting victim to fall into their trap. Perhaps a carjacking was their sinister plan. I couldn't be sure, but something about the situation was deeply unsettling. I slowed my car to a crawl, attempting to navigate my way around the obstruction, when one of the men stepped forward and raised his hand, signaling for me to stop. His gesture was a stark command, and my heart pounded in my chest as I struggled to decide what to do. Should I obey and risk falling into their clutches? Or should I make a desperate escape? In that tense moment, I chose the latter. Without hesitation, I swerved my car onto the roundabout, tires screeching in protest. The cold wind of the night rushed past me, and I couldn't help but glance back in the rearview mirror. The two men, their sinister intentions thwarted, shouted something inaudible, their faces contorted with anger and frustration. As I sped away from that menacing junction, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped a perilous situation. Questions swirled through my mind like a relentless storm. Who were those men? What had they intended to do? The darkness of that industrial zone seemed even more oppressive as I drove on, each passing mile a grim reminder of the enigmatic figures that had crossed my path. For days, the encounter haunted me. I couldn't help but wonder what might have happened if I had stopped, if I had allowed fear to paralyze me. The chilling thought that I had narrowly escaped a potential threat gnawed at my nerves, making the ordinary act of driving home from work a source of anxiety. To this day, I can't say for certain what those strange men had in mind that night. All I know is that I drove straight into the darkness, leaving behind a junction fraught with danger and a chilling encounter that forever lingers in the depths of my memory.